You're listening to The Bird Bath. This episode of The Bird Bath is brought to you by Pearl AI. Pearl AI is an affordable, always-on AI veterinary solution that combines AI with a team of real, licensed U.S. veterinarians. Get the best of both worlds, the speed of AI and the accuracy of human professionals. With Pearl AI, your clinic can offer real-time 24/7 coverage without hiring extra staff. It also automates screening and triage, lowers your operating costs, and turns more of your site visitors into paying clients. Integrate Pearl through a simple web snippet or API and start growing your practice while you sleep. Learn more at pearl.com/thebirdbath. That's pearl.com/thebirdbath. Welcome back to The Bird Bath. Each week we scrape the surface of the news you need to know, so let's get into it. Top story this week is, again, some more new leadership at NVA. NVA has announced that Leslie Storms has been appointed president of Ethos Veterinary Health. In the announcement, Storms says, "I believe the greatest impact we can have is through the teams we build and the lives we touch. At Ethos, I am inspired by the passion and dedication of our community, and I look forward to working together to revolutionize veterinary medicine, expanding options for families, and helping pets live longer, healthier lives." Leslie's new to the vet space after 18 years working at Johnson & Johnson, although I think they call themselves J&J now. But she has been in the healthcare world and has worked with large publicly traded companies for a very, very long time. It doesn't surprise me to see someone new here. She joins a fresh team of leadership at NVA as they prep for what many people think is going to be their IPO. Along with Leslie, she's joined by John Bruno, who joined as the CEO of NVA from Xerox in September of this year. Sean McDonald was appointed to head of enterprise transformation last month. He was definitely someone that took a lot of companies and prepped them for a new chapter in where they go. Brian McKeon joined the board of directors. Dr. Mike McFarland, who came from Zoetis, joined the board, as well as Ken Burdick joined as the executive chairman in May of this year. So lots of new people joining the NVA Ethos world as they prepare for what many people have just been patiently biding their time, waiting for an IPO to see what happens here. So Leslie, welcome to the vet world. We're happy to have you and looking forward to seeing where things go with Ethos and NVA. Another publicly traded company reported their Q3 earnings, and I don't always hit on these because, there's not that much going on too often in a lot of these, and they happen every single day. You guys would get tired of them. But in Q3 2025, Petco's net sales fell 3.1% year over year to about $1.5 billion, which was worse than they did in the previous quarter, but things are looking up for them. Overall, the product sales that they had were about 83% of sales, with their services contributing to the rest. Margins improved despite the overall revenue decline. So even with lower sales, Petco swung back to profitability. Their adjusted EBITDA reached $98.6 million and net income was $9.3 million versus a loss of over $16 million in the prior year quarter. They continue with their store closures, which would make a lot of sense as you see a shift in their sales of products as opposed to their services category. In 2020, they're down to under 1,400 US stores, and they're driven by 25 closures in 2024, 9 more closures so far in 25, and they plan about 20 more net store closures. They did reflect on the tariffs, saying that tariffs were something that they hit and saw. They expected to see more impact from the tariffs in Q4. They said in their statements, the company saw negative effects from tariffs first meaningfully hit cost of goods sold in Q3, and Q4 is where they're expecting this to continue. So they are seeing a downward number in sales, but margins are up. So things are turning around, it seems. I know Petco has been going through a lot of ups and downs, and it seems as if they're looking to try and right the ship. So best of luck to Petco for Q4. Serenity Vet, which is a veterinary relief management platform, has launched what it says is the first subscription-based model designed to help practices better manage the relief veterinarians already in their network. Now, this is important. This is very different than what we're usually talking about when people talk about relief vets. Lots of practices all over the country have these go-to relief vets that they always call on, but Serenity Vet is kind of offering an opportunity here to help the management process of bringing them in, getting them paid, doing a lot of those things. So in the release, the company noted that many clinics struggle less with sourcing new relief veterinarians and more with coordinating schedules, communication, and payments for their existing pool. The newly announced model allows practices to onboard their own relief veterinarians into the platform and use Serenity Vet's scheduling and payment tools without paying a per shift service fee, which is a pretty big departure from what a lot of companies traditionally do in the relief vet marketplace. With the subscription structure, practices can schedule, book, and pay relief veterinarians through a single platform. And according to Serenity Vet, consolidating these workflows may reduce the administrative burden typically associated with managing multiple communication channels, tracking availability, and collecting invoices. As someone that runs my own business, I can tell you, you definitely are jumping around, tracking down invoices, getting a lot of people paid, getting things collected. So big kudos to what Serenity Vet's looking to do as a way to ingratiate and enter new clinics into their platform. Prices begin at $299 a month for practices managing up to 3 relief veterinarians. And they actually offer 1 relief veterinarian packages under a no-cost base tier. Clinics are not locked into contracts or placement fee agreements, so they can hire any relief veterinarians that they use on the platform. So very cool way for groups and practices to be able to start utilizing technology and software solution as a way to manage some of the burdens that already come with relief work. Finally, in Canada, I had to go up north because most of you guys were busy eating some turkey last week, so you didn't give me much to work with. But Canada had already gotten Thanksgiving out of the way, and the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association issued an urgent call for federal and provincial action after veterinarians nationwide reported severe shortages of essential veterinary drugs, including antibiotics, sedatives, vaccines, and other core animal health products. Some Canadian vets estimated that they've lost access to as much as 40% of medications they once regularly used. The shortages span companion and farm animal medicine, which is where a lot of us that think about vet med in a companion animal side of the world don't think about the impact that the lack of these medications can have. But as we start looking at it into the farm animal side of things, approved antimicrobials for livestock, so dairy cattle, swine, poultry, are becoming increasingly unavailable. And that raises the risk for food safety, animal welfare, as well as we think about One Health, the broader public health concerns. So this is a big issue that they're seeing here. Meanwhile, the CVMA also talked about the veterinary workforce shortage that they're saying that they're seeing in Canada. According to the Canadian Occupational Projection System, which they call COPS. It's kind of fun. Canada is expected to see 5,000 job openings for veterinarians by 2031, while the number of new job seekers, so graduates, immigrants, as well as relocations over that period is projected to be only about 4,300, leaving a net structural shortfall. As of 2023, there are roughly 16,000 veterinarians in Canada, according to the CVMA, but the growth isn't keeping pace. According to the 2020 CVMA workforce study, Canadian veterinary school graduation rates are barely sufficient to meet attrition, meaning the retirement and burnout are outpacing the new entrants. The CVMA and Canadian veterinarians, despite being a friendly group, are not immune to the burnout that we see across the entire industry. So the CVMA is seeing not enough veterinarians graduating, entering, or relocating into the Canadian provinces. They're also seeing the continued burnout that we're having and compounding that with the unavailability or difficulty of sourcing the medication that they need to treat the animals. So the CVMA warns that the confluence of drug shortage and staffing gaps is creating a multi-dimensional crisis. Care delays, overworked staff, compromised animal welfare, and risk to food security. The CVMA is not just sitting idly by. They're demanding government intervention. They're asking for a streamlined drug approval pathway, which in some ways leans on what the US is doing with the FDA, seeing that there are governments that can take on this sort of work and allowing the Canadian government to utilize those approvals from foreign governments at a high standard to carry that into Canada. They're looking for support from internationally trained veterinarians, expansion of veterinary education capacity, and an investment in mental health and workforce retention initiatives. For some context here, in 2023, Canadian households spent an estimated 9.3 billion Canadian dollars on veterinary and other pet care services. So this isn't something small. Canada is a very, very big market, and it's one that they are seeing some real troubles brewing. It's something that I know we talked about a job placement recently here on the show for a practice in the Canadian market. And it's one that I know quite a few Canadian veterinarians here in the States. Now, one thing I do think is really interesting is there's a ton of innovative companies coming out of Canada. I know CoVet is a Canadian company that's working on things. We've seen businesses like Furball, which just launched. We're seeing some really incredible innovators from the Canadian market coming to the US market and doing great things. So lots of neat things going on, and hopefully we can see that call from the CVMA being responded to by the government and taken care of. By the time you're listening to this, I am probably in Los Angeles for Pet Connect USA. Pet Connect's a really neat event, and it's one that this year I'm really excited to be able to participate in, not just as an attendee, but getting to take the stage. I'm joining a really cool disruptor for an interview on stage on Thursday afternoon. I'm talking with Mate Mosny, who's the co-founder and CEO of Kismet, which is a really, really cool pet food company. He's got some wonderful star power behind him with both Chrissy Teigen and John Legend as co-founders. We're going to be having a quick conversation about not only what it looks like to enter into the crowded food space. We're talking about a bit more about what's differentiators, how to take a direct-to-consumer brand and put it on the shelves and get it listed right on those e-commerce giants like Chewy, as well as finding out if star power can really be the golden goose to grow a business. So if you're going to be at Pet Connect this week, be sure to check out our conversation on Thursday and make sure to say hello. I'm really excited about this upcoming event, and I think it should be a great one. This episode of The Bird Bath is brought to you by Pearl AI. Pearl AI is an affordable, always-on AI veterinary solution that combines AI with a team of real, licensed U.S. veterinarians. Get the best of both worlds, the speed of AI and the accuracy of human professionals. With Pearl AI, your clinic can offer real-time 24/7 coverage without hiring extra staff. It also automates screening and triage, lowers your operating costs, and turns more of your site visitors into paying clients. Integrate Pearl through a simple web snippet or API and start growing your practice while you sleep. Learn more at pearl.com/thebirdbath. That's pearl.com/thebirdbath. For more on these and other stories, join us by subscribing to our Substack. There's a link in the bio. And don't miss out on any episodes by subscribing and rating the show. For The Bird Bath, I'm Ryan Leach. See you next week.